You're calling the meeting. Do I have a motion to call the Scituate January 2nd, 2024 school committee meeting to order?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to roll call the members at this time. Carolyn Diaz.
Here.
Colleen Pendergast.
Here.
Erica McCormick.
Here.
Kevin Pendergast. Colleen Rose.
Here.
At this point in the agenda, we have a discussion action vote for the position of chairperson. Do I have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Carolyn Diaz as the chair of the Scituate School Committee.
Do I have a second? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Do I have a motion for the position of clerk for the Scituate School Committee?
I'd like to make a motion for the Scituate.
Mike,
I'd like to nominate Colleen Pendergast for position of clerk.
do I have a second? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I now turn the meeting over to the chair.
Okay, do I have a motion to move the committee into executive session to address the issues as stated on the agenda in accordance with Rhode Island general law? Is there a gen?
2246-5 and
A
We
motion?
don't do one at a time, do we?
we can do.
Can I do it?
I'll make,
Yeah.
I make a motion. Yeah,
Okay.
I got, I make a motion to convene into executive session for approval of executive minutes for December 5th, 2023 pursuant to RIGL 42465A2. For approval of executive minutes of December 12th, 2020 pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42465A2. For an update on Cato Field pursuant to RIGL 42465A2. And for an update on the Teamsters Local 251 pursuant to RIGL 42465A2 mediation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay.
Aye.
Yeah, I guess he was pretty decent. In high school, he played hockey and he played baseball, but then when he went to college, he had to choose and they gave him money to play baseball, so he gave it up. But I guess. Well, and he's 22, so he's like the same age as like Evan and Sam and that group, so. Yeah, and I don't, like I said, I mean, not wreck-ish sort of thing. Yeah. Cause he's from Buffalo and he has like no friends, so he's like looking for things to do to try to like make friends.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. And before we begin, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note the emergency exits are to the side. At this time, I would like to make a motion to take out of order an item on the agenda. I would like to move up the building committee update. Our fearless chair is here with us tonight, but is not doing so well. So I'd like to get her in and out. And I know this is all important, but I know how very much you were involved with that. So
I appreciate that.
I make a motion to take that out of order.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, okay. Thank you. I did want to put this on the agenda, Kyle, because there's a lot of important work that needs to happen over the next 3 months. And so I wanted to make sure that Ray was here along with you to kind of report out on the status of not just I think we got a status of what work was being done, but I think the committee really needs to understand the procurement pieces of all of this. and what's going out like yesterday and what's being reissued because of of the vote that was taken on the by the committee to have that fire alarm installed in the summertime. But I think it's just prudent to bid them both back out since we only got one bid and see what we can come up with on that. And then talk a little bit about the timeline of the bidding and the work, as well as the completion of the work, so we can assure that some of the work will be done by June 30th. So we have something to submit um, for housing aid. Yeah, thank you. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted you to just to talk to the committee about that. So we have a sense of what's going to be needed over the next, few months. I did have a conversation with our attorney and all moving forward, and I will put this in the policy that I probably will now have time to write, Erica. The, what types of expenses need to come before here? And these capital expenses, unfortunately, will need to come back to the committee because they're significant and the committee does need to approve those types of contracts. So, just give us a sense of what the next steps are. And I don't know if you want to start, Ray, or if you want to start, Kyle.
Sure, I mean. Ray Bergovich, 16 Woodland Road, Chair of the Building Committee. First, we will say we will do everything under our power, but given the way that things have been lately, and Kyle will speak to it probably further, we can't necessarily assure you that anything will get done, only because we've seen what happened with the bidding. We've seen where we fall. So we will endeavor to get things done, but I don't want to set up an expectation that we're promising to get certain work done when it may be out of our hands. So I just want everybody on the committee to know that we go into all of these projects with the expectation of trying to get it done. But if it's overly expensive, if it causes us to pause back, if there is just logistically the materials are not available, I don't want people to understand or think that certain work is going to get done when it's out of our control.
Okay, I get that. I want though I want to talk about how do we move from here? With the understanding that we might have hard time recruiting people to come in and get this work done, or it's going to come in at an exorbitant amount, which already did come in at an exorbitant amount. I want moving forward, and this is more for the superintendent of schools, every capital or anything to do with our facilities needs to go out on the town listserv, not just be posted on the website. It needs to go town wide. And I don't know whether or not there are any other, like doesn't the state have like a website you can put your bid on? Right? We're not doing enough to promote it. That's what my point is. And if we do all of this and we still don't get anything, or we get something that we have to live with because we can't find anything, but at least we can turn back to the taxpayers and say, we tried everything humanly possible to get a procurement and out there to cast the net as wide as possible to get this work done. But I don't think that that's been done. Just to put it on the website,
What website?
ours.
That's it?
Yeah. It's and asking people and pointing them to that. I think, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. And I don't want to do it just for the capital. Any kind of work that's out there, we should be offering that work to our own people in our town. Not that there's anybody that lives here. And we did have someone that I even had a connection to the town, but with one bid. So I would like to know some of those bids, like the fire bid, that can go right back up, right, Kyle, and be put out there. And Kyle, question on that bid. I don't want bids to lock us into any specific equipment. I want the vendor to come back and say, I can do it with this equipment that, and it doesn't have to be with fire alarms. I don't care. But do you know whether or not the fire alarm dictated a specific piece of equipment or equipment for that use?
So in general, the bids are open.
Okay,
Fire alarms are a little different because they're systems that are basically proprietary to the control manufacturer. So once somebody is the system that runs the fire alarm system pretty much controls the whole system. There is a little bit of variation in the
but
rest
I
of the
don't want to
components,
name
but-
the system. I
Well, you
want,
already have those systems, so they're
So we
already in the
have to use
buildings.
that.
Yes.
Yes, because we
So
already,
the company whose panel and control board is running it
so,
is the only company that
so
can
for
work on it.
$550, yeah, I wish it was $550. For $550,000, $500,000, we are augmenting a system instead of replacing the whole system? That sounds outrageous.
So
So I don't,
the two fire alarm,
can I just say
Yep.
one more thing? It might be easier and more cheaper for us just to put the whole new system in and not be wedded to any piece of equipment that's yeah. How do you know? Let's put it out there. I want to put it out both ways.
so fire alarm, so in any other project, I would say, yes, your fire alarms are kind of a different animal because of the system, what they are. So if we look at the high school, which is the one that came in way over budget, which was a combination of market prices and this original scope that was being carried over from the previous assessment really didn't match what was needed. You have a new panel and kind of front end at the high school because it was damaged. What's being done is infilling all the pieces that don't meet today's code because it was built under a different code.
Okay, I just want,
So
want the
probably 60% of the system stays as it is, other than maybe a device comes down and a
so
new
for
device goes up.
$500,000, we're only augmenting 40% of the system.
That's what that bid was. Now, part of the problem is that there's additional pieces to that that have
Not
been-
sprinklers, right?
no, that have been brought up. So originally the scope said was focused on the high school, which there were known deficiencies. I don't know, 10 years ago, something
Mhm.
like that. There was some work done in the middle school fire alarm. Well, after we put the drawings in, the fire marshal made comments that the middle school wasn't fully up to code. And some of that has to do with the changes in the high school make the middle school, which they're all connected, not work properly. This is all about being able to sync control. So if a strobe goes off in one place, it's going off at the same time in another place so that you don't blind people and create, situations where people can't move around the building. So now we've gone back, and last week they went through and did a detail walkthrough of the middle school to identify
Who did?
our engineers, EDS.
All right, just put the bid out.
So that one,
Augmenting and brand new system. Let's put it out both
from the
ways.
high school standpoint, they're making those changes and we'll get it out. The North Scituate Elementary School, I talked with Jason last week. He's on vacation this week,
Yeah,
so
That's
that one will be going out next week or
okay. But
towards the end of
Kyle,
next week, once he's back.
is it for the $300,000 to put it in an elementary school? I don't,
That is a new system. You're getting
Okay.
everything
for
at
that,
North
do
Scituate,
not put
everything's new.
specify a specific equipment. I do not want the the design to put any specific equipment in anything.
So in,
And if the person comes in and thinks that they can see that and they can have another piece of equipment that's compatible to that, that works together, that's 50% cheaper, I want us to be able to go there.
so in North Scituate, that's what you're getting. You're getting an open bid that they can use any system.
So
Because
you didn't, so
everything's
you
new.
didn't dictate that?
No, because
Okay, good.
everything's new.
All right.
So they can use, what we basically do is we say, here's a quality of a company we need, and either, either we list it or, you know,
Okay.
other companies, or we say anyone that meets these standards
Can you,
can be used.
can you augment or think about the design for the middle and high school? And also put in the equipment or other equipment that is compatible to that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be open. I'm just not sure.
If it's
I'm
whatever.
not sure, I'm not sure how much leeway there is because the fire alarm
Exactly.
systems
But let's keep it,
are in.
let's try to keep it open to keep as much, um, thinking outside the box as possible by these vendors. I don't know. I'm just trying to save money.
Yeah,
So
Kyle,
some of the
unfortunately,
equipment can be-
fire alarms are difficult because they are controlled by a couple companies.
Yeah.
And once one company's in, they have control over the system.
You mean the equipment is
The equipment,
controlled? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, the programming of the equipment.
okay.
So I feel like I should know this answer, but are you on the building committee?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure who you were.
Yeah, sorry. Kyle Robinson, I'm an architect with
Secoccio.
Secoccio and Associates Architects, so I'm not an official
You've been
voting
here-
member of the
you've been
committee.
here a
but-
few times. Yeah, you're not,
Yeah.
he's not on the committee, but he comes to our committee meetings. He is the backbone to everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So the other project that I wanted to
Can I want to just,
on fire? Yeah. Okay.
just, and yeah, it's probably on all of them. So I just want to go back to the piece where you said about where we put our bids out. So what do other districts do?
So, the previous bids have gone out, your website plus print publications, which is a state mandated thing.
Okay.
So it has to go out into print, which is usually Projo. Off the top of my head, I don't remember who else we used out here.
They're print required.
Print's required. It's
So
still kind
ridiculous.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
it's in the law, but
Yeah.
so state bids, prints are required. A lot of other districts use, there's BidNet. There are different
Mm.
online bidding services. They usually come with relatively small fees.
So
But as you know too, so if you get the print version of the journal, you can get the electronic, one. So it's not.
I understand that,
But
but
who has the journal period these days?
so, but I think my point is.
And I got
if
it
there's-
when I remember to read it.
Again,
So I want to finish what I was saying though first, but if you could just hang on 1 second. My thought, and again, I'm asking because I don't know a lot. We're not Scituate is one of the smallest districts, and one of the smallest states. And if I was a contractor, I might be perusing, Providence or this or that. I don't know how many people, granted it's in the print and I don't know what contractors do or what. But if there's another place that it's going to put it before more eyes and it's not going to cost us a lot.
She's spot on because I feel like we're competing against hundreds. Okay, I feel like Colleen is spot on with this because we are competing with districts not only are larger than us, but they have their urban districts who are passing these enormous bonds to do all of this work because they're getting 90% and above reimbursement. So I think we have to be a little bit more aggressive and get out of the gate sooner so we can see whether or not we can harness any of those available vendors out there and lock them in.
The other thing that Carolyn said that I just want to reiterate on, and I think it makes a lot of sense too, is, so yes, we need to speak to the masses as best we can, unless it's going to cost us $1 million to do that. But I also think the listserv is a fabulous idea. Obviously, we're a small town. If there's some people that are connected to our listserv, and if someone's coming in, our policies even say we're going to use local. If granted, there's probably not a company that's selling, $2 million fire alarms in Scituate, but I think going up,
The town council does that.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so we'll go through, off the top of my head, BidNet's one of them. There are multiple online, I know we're using BidNet for Block Island right now that has something out to bid. And we'll definitely look at those. I can get, the fee, it's a minimal fee usually for those. I mean, $150. We're not talking a lot of money. And that is something that anyone can post on. So that's kind of more, it's going to reach a larger
Sure.
population than print or local websites.
can I add to this conversation, please?
Unfortunately, I don't, the stark reality is it really doesn't matter where we publish. We are a small district. So the jobs are small. We're competing against the other districts, no matter where they advertise. And those are the plum jobs that these vendors want to work on. So even though we may be advertising in a lot of other places, begin to advertise in a lot of other places, the sad reality is we may not generate additional vendors who want to do work with us. So we have started to have this a conversation to try to think creatively. We're looking to see if we can, and I don't know what but I spoke with Superintendent Andres and Stephanie a couple weeks ago to see if we can create something akin to a buyer's collaborative, whereas the smaller districts, if it's possible, to combine our work and send it out so that an electrical contractor can be guaranteed to do work in Scituate, North Smithfield, Coventry, so that we can increase the size of our jobs to make it on par with some of the bigger districts. So we are thinking outside the box in a way to attract vendors who would want to do work with us.
I think that's a good idea. I find it hard to believe if any district would jump on that because they're going to want the work when they want the work and they're not going to
Well,
want to
but-
wait
but
for
if-
us. But let me just finish one thing, my thought on this. I agree with you, but there are definitely middle and small companies out there that can't take those big bids on. And I think those are the people that we need to target. And as I said before, and I hear you loud and clear, Raymond, I know what you're saying, and I think that there's some reality to that. But I want to go back to our taxpayers and let them know we did everything possible to get the best contract out there. And if it comes in high because we can't find anybody, at least we can say we took it back. We went back out. We added all of these other places to put it out. And then we did our due diligence. That's all I'm saying. And I'm
and
more
not discounting
optimistic
it.
than you, but
Right. I'm not discounting that. And, but the sad reality is, I think what we're experiencing, and unfortunately, to the point that you want to focus on smaller vendors. What a lot of times happens, because I see it all the time in my line of work, the smaller vendor just subs for a larger vendor. So they end up getting a contract and don't have to go for what we would consider bottom of the
so
barrel.
what do you
job.
recommend, Ray?
I'm recommending, we'll do what we're doing. I'm just saying.
You're saying don't get your expectations too
Exactly. I'm
high.
just saying
All
that
right.
at the end of the day,
All right.
after
That's
we
fair.
send these things out to bid,
No, I think we all
high
got
school's
it.
still going to come back at $500,000. The elementary school's still likely to come back at $300,000. I just need everybody to know that we're doing our best. We're trying our best, but unfortunately the results may still end up being where they are at the end of the day.
And I would just like the committee to know that when I first came here 4 years ago, we were going through the same process, but we would get multiple bids when we put a bid out and open up multiple bids. There's definitely been a change. I think that since COVID, materials, workers availability, and the fact that there is so much money in the housing aid where districts are doing very big projects. So the workers and the companies that are out there are going towards those big projects
And I
and
think-
money.
Because
And I think the
it's-
stimulus money
Yeah,
too.
Well,
it's
right.
had an
Something-
impact.
It's a trickle down effect because
had an
these
impact.
vendors need to pay their workers more, and by paying them more, it raises the bid price. So it's a trickle. It's a no-win situation, unfortunately, that we're facing.
I hear
So-
you, Ray,
And-
and I think we're feeling the effects of that.
It's not just here. We get, on a regular basis, we've been getting low numbers of bids.
Okay. Ray,
And
Kyle, I have,
One,
go
two
ahead.
bidders
My point.
on almost any project. We had
Yeah.
a project, the bids came in around $20 million and there were only two bidders on it.
In regards to the fire,
Who-
I honestly, I work for the state. And I asked someone who does that in the building, and he was saying something about the state of Minnesota, that there's an umbrella that you're able to use certain things, which will dramatically cut down the cost of, I don't know if you've heard of it.
So the state of Rhode Island has master price agreements for just about everything.
Yep.
But depending on what it is, they're capped. And what that allows you to do is go directly to those approved vendors. And in the state, they give hourly rates, they've submitted certain criteria. Both of these projects are over any electrical amount. I want to say the electrical amount is $150,000 or $200,000. After that, you have to go out to public bid. So there is a similar thing, but for the most part, it's for smaller projects. So if you were going to replace 15 doors in this building, you could go directly to one of those vendors that kind of has set prices. Rhode Island has, RIDE has agreed to allow the Mass to use the school district pricing as well. So they have set prices, but again, they're for smaller projects. They're not for bigger projects. And unfortunately, the fire alarm work is kind of specialized work, which dictates the price, and usually it goes over those limits. So there are similar things here. It's just they're really intended for smaller projects.
Question, and one more thing. In addition to the fire alarm work, the corridor in the school, is that going back to bid?
So the high school corridor, the bridge, will be going out to bid essentially with the North Scituate fire
Next
alarm.
week.
It's ready to go.
Next
We'll
week?
coordinate. Yeah, the drawings are done.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for Jason to be back so we can coordinate it going out and everybody be on the same
Okay,
page. So
and that's gonna go out and, you're gonna put that, every single procurement, I just want to be clear, is going out in a broad,
yeah,
in a very broad
what I'll do
way.
is we'll go through, we'll get some of the information together on some of those websites, recommend ones, give the cost, we'll send it over to,
Is there anything else
Superintendent, I'm
going out to bid besides that we can potentially complete before June 30th?
no, the only other thing we're working on, which won't be going out to bid next week, but we're trying to finish it up, is a renovation to the media center at Hope. Which will probably go out to bid around the same time as the high school fire alarm. So let's say end of January, early February.
Okay, that'd be good.
But
That
none of,
won't be done before.
none of those are really pre-June.
Okay, so then we really do need to get the
Finishes.
bridge done, because that's gonna be the only thing this
I-
year, right? Right, Steph?
I'm not sure you're going to get that done either because of the time frame of of getting windows.
All the
So
more
windows
reason.
are almost 20 weeks. They're 16 to 20 weeks to get.
Okay, well, let's see if what we can do to get
So-
it done.
So until we have a contractor that can really give us a schedule and look at some of those lead times, we won't really know when those are done. I mean, all those projects would be dictated to be done before the start of school next year. So that's their time frame. That's kind of the limit, is you don't have a choice. It has to be done before that. The bridge working while there are kids in school is problematic because that is a means of egress for part of the school.
The fire marshal already pointed out to us that it would be problematic if that corridor were blocked, because if there were an emergency, it severely hampers exit.
Yeah, so we had kind of begun the first time around looking at the possibilities of that, and we did have a conversation with the fire marshal. I think that really can't start until school's out.
Now the corridor can't, the bridge can't start?
But so
He is
so
killing
let's
us. He's killing us.
so
I don't understand that because honestly,
So-
you have numerous egresses in that general area, like you got down to the A corridor.
Like, did he
So-
show you the code that it referenced that?
yeah, so there is, and I haven't checked all the numbers. I'd have to go in and check all the numbers. We'd have to prove all this out. It is currently a means of egress, and I don't remember which direction it is. It's one direction or the other. It is a means of egress for that area.
Only
of the
because it's
school.
available. So if it weren't available, there could be other.
That
means of
I don't know.
egress.
I
So
thought they were gonna, can they do it over like a break and then
That's
just
too
box the
fast.
windows in?
That's initially what was, remember?
Yeah,
So
that's
that
what
was-
was gonna be
Ini-
recommended.
initially we were talking about that, but that's assuming that all the material is on site.
True.
Like
What
even
kind of material do you need? You need,
steel. I mean, you would need steel, and so the replacement is take the glass off and put a steel frame up, which is like 6 columns, few beams, and put a real roof on it so you don't have the leaking issue, and then put windows on the
and
side.
you have to use steel?
You would have to, yes, otherwise it would become more, it's cheaper and easier to use steel beams in that scenario than it would be to use
My
other
steel
framing.
beams came in and. done
Now,
all-
steel isn't a long lead time, but is there a break where they could be ready for this? I don't know. It,
Well, we got February and we have April. If we can get the thing done in April school vacation.
February would be too tight. We'd be getting
right,
somebody
let's
on
do it.
board.
Let's plan for it
April,
for April.
I don't know. We'd have to talk to the contractor and see whether that is doable or
Who's the
not.
contractor, whoever bids on? it?
Whoever bids on. it.
Okay, well, we need to really get that out then.
And again, the reality is, if the window lead time is 20 weeks, that's a half a year. We're talking June at this point anyway.
No, I get it, but it only, once they're in, they pop them in. It doesn't take a long time to install them.
Right. The other option would be to build it and then have everything boarded up until the windows
That's
sit
what I'm
in,
saying.
which again, that may end up being more costly at the end of the day to have a contractor come back.
No,
Twice.
it's not. I just had it done in my house.
Well,
I mean, it,
commercial construction and residential construction are two different animals in all due respect.
well, my son is in commercial instruction and they do it all the time as well. So, I mean, that's kind of why I'm about a centimeter deep on this stuff, but I'm just trying to understand it to get us in the best possible shape. And can you say something that's encouraging, Ray? Because right now I think that we're just going to throw up our hands and say, forget it.
We're doing everything we can.
Thank you, Ray.
And you are encouraged to come a week from Thursday to the building committee meeting as we put the final touches on the project list that's going to come back in front of you so that we can submit next month.
Okay, so that's the last thing. So the final plan is coming to the committee and we're going to stage 2 approval.
Yeah, so we're working on stage 2.
Are we
and-
going to make the deadline?
Yes.
Okay, do you need a
Absolutely.
special meeting for that?
I think we will need school committee approval or
We're meeting the
endorsement,
first,
not
we're
necessarily
meeting the
approval.
first week of February. Will you have everything buttoned up by then for the submission of the application?
Yes, we should, minus some minor things. That
Okay.
first week is good. Will all the final estimates be in? Maybe not, but obviously the big projects will be in place. There may be a few outlier, but we'll have an idea what that number looks like. We have a goal. We're not kind of just getting projects and seeing what the number is. So we know what kind of number the project list is based on the number we've been
Kyle, I
discussing, so.
appreciate you coming out tonight. I just, it's our first meeting of the year. This is such important work. We've done yeoman's work this as a committee for the last 6 years. I just want us to get out of the gate as quickly as we can and get some of this other stuff rebid. I want our summer work to be flourishing in these buildings. So,
Yeah, so
So
the
do-
plan is next week we'll have 2 out of the 4 going out, and
And then
by the end of the
in
month, we'll
January,
have the
the other
other
two,
two.
including the Hope Media Center, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and that should keep us pretty busy over the summer.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get that bridge done in the spring. I'm
Yeah.
gonna turn this meeting over.
Honestly, I have a question. So everything in the school that needs to get done has to be commercial license? It can't be a residential license or
Has to be a commercial
all
residence.
commercial?
Because the codes are different and they have to be compliant from a construction standpoint.
Do you know the name of the equipment that's in the high school that we have to augment? Is it,
I'm not sure. It's mostly,
it's in the
it's-
specs?
yeah, it's most likely a Siemens system. Siemens does the majority of
Siemens.
fire alarm. There really are not a lot of open project. Fire alarms are a very specific thing that only a few companies do. So, in general, we leave it open, especially if we were doing almost anything else, it would kind of be open to anyone. But
Mhm.
when you're speaking about fire alarms, the equipment's not always specific, but the programming is, which then dictates what equipment the programmers will allow
Mhm.
as part of their system. So,
And that's all spelled out in the specifications?
Yes.
So anybody who wants to bid on it.
yep.
All right. Thank you.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions on
No,
building?
Thank you both.
at least we got you up front.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling well tonight, so I am going to turn the the meeting over to the committee and Colleen will help facilitate it. I did want to report out on executive session that we did go through the executive agenda and we only had 2 votes. So thank you regarding the minutes. Thank you.
So next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda to cover the regular session minutes for December 5th, 2023 and December 12th, 2023. The bills for the general fund bills of $468,316.53. General fund bills of $76,816.61. School food service funds for $37,587.71, and the Northwest Special Education for $100.99.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Having no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So next on the agenda is Clayville State of School Annual Presentation.
Very tall people. Okay, how's that? Good. So thank you for coming to Clayville. We were really happy that you're here. We were talking about it recently and realized we haven't done as much of this since COVID, and this is a really great like omen and sign that we're kind of getting back to seeing people in our buildings. We've seen the same thing in terms of getting more parents in our building. I think getting more like, students from the high school to come down and visit, getting the SRO in. So it's been wonderful. So I have, I don't know. Okay, cool. So obviously I am new. I started in August. The first thing I did when I started is I asked the teachers, the students, and the parents, what's so important about Clayville? What's amazing about Clayville? What do you want to most protect and build? And these were their answers. So we took all their answers and we put them in a word cloud. So the bigger ones are the ones that came up. So pretty much the word that we heard from everyone was community. There's this amazing sense of community at Clayville. Everyone is really close knit. We love the teachers. It's a really strong, small school. And so knowing that, we added or are adding this year a goal. We have had 3 goals for our school improvement team, and we're adding a 4th, which is an SEL goal, which we haven't had before. I think the other elementary schools have in the past. So the 4 things that we're working on as a school improvement team are ELA, math, and science achievement. The goal we've temporarily set is to increase each by 10% over the course of the year. And I can show you the data from last year on the next slide. I'll also show you, can I go back if I go forward? Okay, fantastic. Can I though? Here we go. Okay, so here's the school improvement timeline. There's a little arrow down on the bottom right, which shows where we are. So we're currently at the part of the year where we're, yes, so in our next meeting, we'll conduct a root analysis, root cause analysis, and then we're going to go back and we're going to work on all of these goals. So the goals that I'm giving you are really a draft, basically. That's what I wanted to say. But right now they're set as an increase of 10% each in ELA, math, and science achievement. And then we've added an SEL goal, which is to reduce the risk or reduce the students identified as at risk by 10%, which I can talk to you about. So this is our data from between 2022 and 2023. So as of the spring of last year, when we look at our RICAS data, our NGSA data, and our math data, there were declines. Interestingly, the scores are actually they were very high before, and the group size or the class size is actually very small. So in some ways, this is really helpful historically to look at like where we were and where we're going. In some ways, this is not as helpful as the more recent data. So what I'd like to show you next is benchmarking data. So I was excited to do this in January, but I didn't realize how early in January we would meet. So in a couple weeks, we're going to have new data to compare this to, and it's going to be so exciting because basically we do our fall benchmarking with all of our grade levels. This is kindergarten, and then we put them in our MTSS system, and we decide: do you need lots of help? Do you need an interventionist? Do you need to work with, a small group? Do you need to just have tier 1 solid instruction? And all of the students in the red have been receiving at least one round of intervention from an interventionist or a specialized teacher. So in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have data that shows these kids have grown. And I'm really excited about that. And I wish I could have timed it to show you that.
You can still do an update and just like send it to us, because now we will have this to compare it to.
Okay, I can do that.
Like, we
That's
can be
exciting.
excited with you.
Okay, it is going to be exciting because I feel like we've made a lot of progress, especially this kindergarten class has come so far. So I will do that. So for each grade level, I put up and I shared with you the literacy and the numeracy data from the fall. And so this is just like the one point in time. The other thing that I see when I look at this is we have kids that come in all over the place in kindergarten. They have such different experiences, and so many of them haven't been to school before, which is really interesting to me. Haven't been to a full-time preschool, haven't really learned how to be in a classroom with other people or wait their turn or, do those academic skills. And as they progress in the grade levels with us, I see students growing stronger as students. We can look at each of these slides. They're also in the slideshow if you want to look at them more closely. I'm going to move on for now unless you have any questions. So we have these 4 priorities we're working on as a school improvement team. The first one is our ELA achievement. Our goal is to improve to grow the number of students either meeting or exceeding proficiency in ELA 10%, which will bring us up to 73.6%. There are 3 ways we're doing this. We've been working really hard on our MTSS work. So we have been building our intervention, our small group intervention, and our classroom instruction. And one of the big things that I certainly am not responsible for, but our teachers have almost completed their letters training at this point. So they have a wealth of literacy knowledge that is amazing to see. That's a really big part of this change. And we're working now to kind of improve the alignment between our curriculum and what we know about structured literacy. So at K-1-2, teachers are using more Haggerty, and with Ozzy's permission, we're testing out spellography, which is kind of a letters related orthographic mapping spelling thing in the 4th and 5th grade. So we haven't fully implemented the whole program yet, but I think that can only help. Math, we've been working with an MTSS consultant on our math maps. So essentially we have a formal map of what to do. So you're having trouble in this particular part of this particular test. We're going to do A, B, C, and D. And it's very systematic, and it makes our meetings more efficient. And I think it's really showing some changes. It started at 1st grade, and we're kind of growing it up now. And science, we have still, I think if we look at ELA science and math, and I don't think this is a Clayville or a Scituate thing, but I think this is an everyone thing. Science is a newer priority for us. And in terms of growing our capacity to teach science, we're still working on finding the perfect curriculum with Ozzy's help. Obviously, RIDE will approve hopefully very soon more science curriculums, and we'll be able to build this out more. I'm going backwards.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So we'll increase anywhere from 10 to 60%. That's quite a swing. I think
That's an error.
Okay.
Okay, we'll increase 10% to 60%.
Yes. Oh,
So it's at 50. Does that make sense? So it's at 50 now. We want to get to 60. Good catch. That would be kind of a goal. Okay, and the last one is SEL. I'm really excited about SEL. We have a ton of studies that show that investing in SEL is just as cost efficient as investing in a straight academic intervention. And for whatever reason, we're finding more and more kids need more and more support. So as a district, we're implementing Second Step, which is the curriculum that our teachers are doing. And we're also trying to build out our MTSS framework so it involves not just math and ELA, but SEL. So we've worked with our school psychologist and our social worker. And last year we started collecting data using Sabres. So 3 times a year, just like we do math and literacy, we would check in on students' mental health. And then over the course of this year, our goal is to kind of build SEL into our MTSS framework. So we have a system for how to deal with emergent problems. And then hopefully over the course of next year, I think we will do some work on calibrating the systems and investigating the efficacy of the specific measures we use. So for AimsWeb, we use AimsWeb for benchmarking in math and ELA, and it's just very, very clear, cut and dry. SEL bench lines are different because they often have kind of like an inter-rater reliability problem because teachers fill out the forms. So I'm assessing like what I perceive of you. So it's not a perfect system. And there's a lot of work, I think, throughout Rhode Island to be done on building those pieces and those systems. But this is what we have so far. We have a social worker who is here on Fridays. She sees 7 students. This had an error in it earlier and it said 21 students, but that is the total number of students seen by both people. So 7 individual students work with our social worker and 14 work with our school psychologist. She's here 2.5 days a week. Hopefully next Monday will be our first official day of the other social worker starting. She will be here 1 day a week, so we'll have someone almost every day. And she'll be pulling small groups. So rather than working with individuals, she'll be working in kind of a tier 2 capacity, pulling groups of kids to help them. And I think the biggest change for us is to really focus on building the tier 1 curriculum. So theoretically, tier 1 should cover 80% of students' needs. And for us, that looks like the curriculum, mindful moments. We're working on student self-regulation. If you talk to teachers, you'll hear them say things have changed over the years. Students are different. They don't sit still. They don't have, and so this is what SEL does. What we try to do is help students have the skills that they need to be successful academically when they're ready. So we also got to go to DC. Lisa LaRose, our first grade teacher, and Lori and I to celebrate the Blue Ribbon, which was actually one of the places where we saw a couple of these presentations on mindfulness and SEL and the effect on students, which was very cool. We recently received accommodation for our attendance, which is something that we're always working on. We are very proud of this, though. We got to celebrate that one. And the other big thing that we're spending our time on is preschool. So beginning in June, I think you are all aware of this, but beginning in June of 2025, our preschool program and all the preschool programs are going to have to be Bright Star accredited. So we are putting our preschool teacher through a program called Learners, which will help us get ready for this accreditation process. And we're starting to look through the systems they use to accredit different schools. And we have this delightful manual that we've been kind of reading through and piecing. And there are some decisions to make. So to be Bright Stars accredited at a 2, a 4, a 5, or a 7 require very different things. And some of them are space related and resource related. So those are some conversations that we're going to be having in the future ongoing. That's all I have. Any questions? Okay, well, thank
I
you.
was
Thank
just
you,
saying,
Sarah.
Thank you for the presentation. This is well put together and a lot of information to absorb. I had fun looking at it last few days. And welcome to Clayville.
Good evening, committee members and those in attendance. I hope that everybody had a wonderful and restful holiday. It certainly was lovely, but it went very quickly. So welcome to Clayville tonight. I wrote my report thinking we had already done the tour. Thus, tonight we toured Clayville, and this report will highlight our smallest elementary school. The most striking characteristic of Clayville is truly its sense of community. You can feel it the minute you enter the doors here. The teachers, support staff, administration, and parents are all committed to supporting each and every student here. This commitment is the foundation of Clayville being recognized as a blue ribbon school. I want to thank the school committee for allowing me to represent Scituate and Clayville at the ceremony in Washington, D.C., and it was truly an honor. I think that to be in the nation's capital and being recognized as a blue ribbon school and speaking for a number of days to other administrators, teachers, and professionals from other blue ribbon schools is an experience that you really can't describe. You learn so much about work that we've been doing for years. But everybody does it a little bit differently, and it's really inspiring to speak to other people that are doing truly great work. This sense of Clayville community is evident in the annual band concert that is held at Clayville every December. The band members are a group of senior citizens that have been coming to Clayville. How many years, Sarah?
10.
Long time. They are the most committed, wonderful gentlemen. They're all gentlemen. And to watch the interactions between those senior band members and our littles, it gives you goosebumps every single year. So that is really the crux and the heart of what is Clayville. As Sarah spoke to you, Clayville hosts our only preschool program in the district. We're working on our stage 2 application to ride from the building committee, and the focus of the educational enhancements will be our early childhood programming at Clayville. So Kyle, Sarah, and I have met once. We'll meet again to talk about what needs to happen, what we need to propose around the building and structure to support going through that Bright Stars certification program. The research is really clear that early childhood is a driving force behind improved student achievement and increases in test scores. We began to have those conversations, Sarah, Kyle, and I, so that the application will be ready for submission and our movement through the Bright Stars accreditation process can be as smooth and positive as possible. I have shared the district report card with all school committee members. This will be an annual publication out of my office. I will be distributing this document to all family members and town residents by the end of the week. We'll have it up on the town website. We'll also have it on our website. And that concludes my report for this evening. Any questions for Lori?
Nope.
Thank you. Stephanie?
I'll begin with the audit report. We'll be receiving a draft audit this week, and then upon completion of the municipal transparency report, we will reach the close of the audit. Due to the holidays and scheduled vacations of the parties involved surrounding the holidays, the timing to complete the draft audit will be at the end of January. I had projected around a $12,000 deficit. We landed at a deficit of $11,378.61. This can be contributed to the continuous close observation of the budget as well as our new FMIS system. That's all on the audit for now. And then if we want to, oh, you already have it up. So good. The budget to actual is very similar to last month. I want to point out specific areas that are different, and then obviously if you have a question, let me know. In the revenue section, the only change was surrounding Medicaid, and we did talk about this last month, and our close examination of those Medicaid monies and why or why not they are not reflecting as I felt they should be. I'm working with Northwest to ensure all service provider logs are accurately reflecting our Medicaid eligible services, and I will continue to. If you want to go to the next slide, unless somebody else has a question on revenue. So changes in this particular section, salaries. The only change in this series from my last presentation is due to overtime and severance. Overtime has been frozen in central office for several months, so I dug deeper in to see why overtime was being expended. I found that not just overtime is being expended in this line, but also other time. So again, Yukoa, we keep learning.
What does that mean?
So other time
Didn't get it.
is, so say somebody works, their contractual amount of hours is 35 hours and they work 37, so it's not quite 40 to be overtime, but it's other time. So that amount of pay would also be included in that UCOLA line.
So I see you thinking, well, how does that happen? So it could be a paraprofessional who somebody else doesn't come in. I can stay for a couple of hours to cover some of that shift. So it's not technically overtime, but it's additional time for that employee.
And that employee is not getting paid at an overtime rate.
No,
No,
They're
correct,
getting paid at their,
correct.
And so that's something also I wanna,
where would that go? Under regular salaries?
it's shown under overtime.
I know,
now,
but normally it would kind of go under a salary
Right,
piece
so
because,
now it's split up.
Okay.
So I am gonna talk to Ride though to see if there's a better UCOA that would fit that, or if we're supposed to just be putting it, as it says in the workbook, under there. That way we could really see it broken out. Also, the severance line changed slightly. We had 4 retiree benefits that needed to be paid out based on their contracts. And you know, that's based on the service years, and then that continues for 3 years on certain individuals. If you want to go to the next slide.
severance hard to predict.
So, yes and no. If we get a retiree we're not expecting, or there's something contractual in their contract that they get something outside of what the regular contract is.
Okay.
So yes and no. Does anyone have any more questions on that slide? Okay. You go to benefits. I think we jumped, we got excited. The dental line is projected to be over budget due to a high number of plan subscribers. We are analyzing the list of individuals on Delta Dental and ensuring all individuals are receiving COBRA letters that should be and are paying towards their benefits. This line being higher will also mean that the buyback payout will be less, so just to keep that in mind. But that is something that over time we've been digging into as well, making sure that all of the individuals on these types of things are who they, you know, who it should be if they're getting COBRA letters. So now that we have a little more time and a little bit more light, we can really dive into those. If no one has any more questions on benefits or any questions at all. Okay. Changes in this section from my previous budget to actual, we're just in the catering food line. I think we know we went to the Blue Ribbon celebration and we had a little travel that was unexpected and it was a beautiful thing and much needed. So that's what you'll see there. Any questions on that one? Okay. Property services, there was a change in maintenance repair. I did want to point this out just because it was on the non-student vehicles due to one of the older facilities trucks having a lot of issues, most recently needing brakes and having exhaust problems. And I just want to put that on everybody's radar. I know that Jay's, you know, really looking for a van, a truck. And I know that it's costing us quite a bit now to keep the old truck that we have and fixing those issues. So maybe not right now, maybe not next year, but you know, put it on the radar.
In regards to the repairs for the truck, does it go to the town highway or do we have it out to a private vendor?
It was, I believe it was Knox Garage,
Knox.
but I can double check for you.
Hmm.
Other purchase services, again, just the changes in employee travel, the Blue Ribbon celebration, which again was wonderful and was a must do. Any questions there? Supplies, I had no change. Everything was the same from last month. Same with equipment and dues and fees unless there's a specific question in those. my beautiful little pie chart that I know everybody loves so much. And at this time, for the 12-month budget, we're around 69.44% expended.
There's a possibility that they might need another vehicle. Now, the vehicle they have, I don't know how many miles it has. Do they exchange that with the car dealership or do they auction it off at the town highway?
I'm
What
not
they-
really sure. I'm not positive, but I can find out.
Yeah, I was just
and
wondering, I mean, honestly.
Those are all good
because
thoughts too,
You
because we
might get
wanna,
more money
right,
with a dealer than having it over here at the town highway where people say, I give you $500.
right,
You know,
and you get nothing, yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Stephanie? Thank you for all those nuggets. At this time, we will open for public comment. If anyone in our audience has something to say, or anyone at home, you can hit your button. Is there anybody
You
on?
can hit the raise hand button if you are on Zoom. It's either at the bottom of your screen or in the more section.
Chris, can you switch us back to?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. So on to new business. So first on the agenda for new business is discussion action vote on the Scituate High School Program of Studies. Do we have
Mr. Hassel's going to join us via Zoom to answer any questions that
okay.
you may have. My recommendation to the committee would be to approve the Scituate High School Program of Studies as presented.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for a motion, then we can have discussion.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Scituate High School program of, actually, no, let's have a discussion first.
Okay,
Otherwise, I'll just have to amend my
okay.
motion. So I'll start by saying I spoke with Mr. Hassel today, just to review with him questions, comments, that I had on the entire program of studies. And Mike, I'm not sure if, how to do this vote with any changes that were made as a result of our discussion.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep. Did you
right,
hear my question?
I was changing from into a panelist, I guess. So there was a little blurb in my browser here. So I'm sorry. Say it again, Erica.
That's okay. So I know I was sharing that you and I spoke today to go over some comments and questions and sometimes just like minor typo changes to the program of studies, and wondering how we go forward and voting for this. I know that you made some of the changes right there on the fly. Maybe we want to share those few changes with the committee so that when we do a motion, it can include those changes if the rest of the committee agrees with them. A lot of them were not even.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
Erica
nice.
and I,
Yeah.
Erica and I had the opportunity to meet today. Erica suggested some minor kind of grammatical edits. I'm happy to go over those. I did change those today into blue as well. So you can see in the program of studies, anything that's being proposed as a change would be in blue. And anything that is being proposed to be taken out is a strike through. So you can clearly see what we're proposing to take away and what we're proposing to add. So there are about 5 very small grammatical edits that Erica had proposed that we made, and I did change those to blue as well.
Mike, is there anything specific in the programs of studies you want to bring to our attention without going through the whole extensive document?
Yes.
Obviously, we've had the option, so maybe just the highlight reel.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for allowing me to be virtual today. My son was going to be home alone, so I appreciate the virtual
no.
option. So as you all know, the program of studies was we did an overhaul about 5 years ago. And every year we continue to tweak and change to make sure that we're ensuring the best programming at Scituate High School for kids. This year I had the opportunity to sit both with Lori and Ozzy to I think we sat for about 3 hours in Ozzy's office, going line by line and looking at those. And both Lori and Ozzy had some really great suggestions around wording, just simple things is like, we don't call it school council guidance anymore. We call it school counseling, and, you know, keeping things consistent throughout the program of study. So those were the kind of minor edits we made. There's two kind of big points in this proposal. The first one is that the incoming freshmen next year will be aligned to the new state regulation graduation requirements. So RIDE has done a pretty good job recently of releasing guiding documents. Those guiding documents have been ensuring that superintendents, principals, and school leaders kind of understand the changes that the incoming freshmen will be, you know, have to align to, but we're still waiting on some. For instance, there's a guiding document on what financial literacy will look like. They've explained to us that if we're offering Spanish 1 and French 1 at the 8th grade level, and it's truly a high school course, which we do at Scituate Middle School, we can now allow that to count as one of the 2 years of world language that will be required. So there's been some guiding documents from
That's right,
RIDE.
Yeah.
Yep. But we're still waiting on some. For instance, I have a webinar next week with the computer science for Rhode Island folks and the RIDE folks. We're still waiting to say, what does computer science look like? So I'm very anxious to work with Lori and Ozzy and our teacher leaders to update the proficiency-based graduation requirements for the class of 28 and beyond, but we're just not there yet. We'll probably be there in about a month. To bring it back to the program of studies, you'll see on slide 10, I was able to take a screenshot from the Department of Education's website, and it just kind of lists the priority areas in what RIDE defined the new regs to align with. And then really on page 11 is a brand new slide that's specific for the class of 2028.
Can you pull that up? I can't get it on my. I'm sorry, Mike. I was just asking Chris to pull it up on the.
Yeah, no problem. So really, the upswing with the freshmen is that they're going to be aligning the same graduation requirements of our current Scituate High School students, but the addition will be that the freshmen will need to complete 2 sequential years in a world language, in the same world language. They're going to have to show proficiency in computer science, and they're defining that either as a 0.5 credit, so a half-year credit, a project, or a nationally vetted assessment. They're not only saying that there'll be 4 credits in mathematics anymore, but they'll specifically be Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, and then a 4th one will be a high-quality math course. And then they're adding financial literacy as well. And again, that's one of the same as computer science. We can showcase that as a project. Some districts are deciding to embed that within an advisory. Some districts are deciding to have a standalone class as well. And then in addition to this, students will demonstrate a resume, which actually isn't on here because it's not an actual course that they'll do. So we wanted to provide our students and families with information, especially the incoming freshmen. We have our 8th grade move-up night on January 31st. So this will be a good kind of screenshot for those families to review and see what are the new requirements. But again, we're not quite there yet. I'm fairly confident that we are currently offering all of the programs and courses for our incoming freshmen to ensure that they're going to be aligned to the new graduation requirements by the time they graduate. So I'll stop there. That was one of 2 items I wanted to highlight, and then I'm gonna, as my dogs are fighting behind me, we're gonna move on. I'm gonna talk about the new course proposal. Any questions about the secondary regs and those slides that I just spoke of?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to a new course proposal. The Social Studies Department, Mr. Ballou, and our department chair, Amy Grunt, have worked hard to, those of you that were on the committee, we're eliminating a course. We're proposing to eliminate a course called the History of Scituate and Rhode Island. That course was a semester course, and it was really created because Scituate approached Rhode Island PBS, and we initiated an Our Town series documentary, and Rhode Island PBS did that. So our students were a crucial part of that. However, we found that now that it's been 4 years, we find that that course has pretty low enrollment. And we're deciding to swap it out with this new course, which is really from the Broadcasting Club. So about 4 years ago, the Scituate Prevention Partnership awarded Scituate High School with about $5,000, which we purchased equipment. And we've had a club. We've decided to roll that into our social studies curriculum and replace that semester course. So within your packet, you should have received a kind of a scope and sequence and write-up. Sorry, can you hear my dogs fighting?
No, not at all.
Yes.
I have my headphones on and it's ridiculous and they're noise canceling, so I can't hear a thing and they're behind me
He's probably having a stroke.
there. Hold on one second. Was it really loud?
No, no, not at all. We heard just a little muzzle.
Okay, so I apologize for that. I am just pulling up. Here we go. So what the social studies department wrote is we hope to eliminate the semester course, the history of Scituate in Rhode Island, due to lower enrollment numbers. And based on the fact that this course was created to help the Rhode Island PBS Our Town documentary, which has already been completed, the new course will be the first of 3 courses at Scituate High School that we hope to apply for a new CTE Academy in about 3 years from now. The CTE courses, you have to now have those courses and have students enrolled in them before you can even think about applying. So this would be the first of a 3-year initiative. I'll stop there while I pull up the scope and sequence. Any questions so far?
Nope.
No, I think it
All
sounds
right.
pretty exciting, though. Again, I think the Scituate course, I think it's wonderful. Our town, our history. Do they still run it in the elementaries? I know a lot of times they did. Do we do they used to do we used to do a bus tour of in Scituate in the 3rd grade here. I'm going back a little bit. And then 4th grade, we do more the state level type of thing. And again, I think it's great if we have unlimited hours and unlimited time to do these things, but that certainly, again, I think it's helping attract more kids. Obviously, I like to watch when I get my newsletter, I always click on to the morning broadcast and I
Yep.
watch I think it's great. I know that's been something you've been trying to get off the ground for a little bit. And I think it's just a great opportunity on so many levels to pass along good stuff that's going on. And just I never even thinking in my head, I'm just almost fell to the floor when you said, oh, by the way, if you want to have a pathway, you have to already have the classes and already have students in it. So there's pre-work that needs to be done. And obviously there's an interest.
Right. There is a huge interest and you're spot on. The Broadcasting Club, they do morning shows on Monday and Friday. That club is still going to exist, but the conversations that I've had with both Lori, Ozzy, and our social studies teachers is we want to ensure that this is truly a social studies course and it's aligned to the national social studies standards, and we're still rolling out the Common Core state standards as well. So I think the history department's done a great job with the write-up. The name of the course is History and Impact on Broadcasting, Broadcast Media. And we've already surveyed our kids, and there's going to be a lot of interest in this course, I think, next year.
Are you finished with
So
that topic, Mike? Or you have more to say?
yeah, yep, that's it. That's the new course proposal.
I was wondering if you just wanted to address, because I found it interesting myself, on page 20, eliminating the grade of E.
Sure. Thanks, Erica. So in conversations with our leadership team at the high school and also with Ozzy and Lori, we've decided to, so we're one of, I think, the only school I've ever heard of that has an E rating for a year end. And when asking the teachers kind of what's the history behind getting an E, and it was always a 60 to a 64, it was a point of communication to students and parents to identify that those students were eligible for our local summer school. So we've decided to eliminate the E and just call it what it is. It's a failing grade. So we're still saying that a 65 would be a D and a 64 below would be an F. It would be a failing grade. However, we've decided to move the eligibility for summer school, which really used to only be 4 points, from 60 to 64, and now students will be eligible at a 55. This will allow,
Mhm.
I think, a bigger catch basin of kids to recover that credit. But it also is, I think, a good balance, especially with those courses like content areas like math and world language and sciences, which are extremely content driven. It's not low enough where those students have zero lack of skills or proficiency in standards. We feel that they can still recover the credits should we have it there. So we're proposing to eliminate the E and really just calling it a failing and then communicating to parents and kids the new 55 to 64.
And the other one was, I don't know, I only because I caught it and asked you about it, was removing the Rhode Island Honor Society and the National Honor Society from this document.
Yeah, it was really just a housekeeping item. Most program of studies at the high school level do not include all of the information around National Honor Society in Rhode Island. It's all embedded in a handbook that Ms. Stormont does a great job maintaining, and it's also in our student and parent handbook, which is approved by the school committee in August and September. So we're just simply removing it from the program of studies.
So Mike, I don't have any questions. I have a comment, and I think I ask this every year, and I've asked this the last few years. I think, I don't know why we have to approve this. I think it's great. I love to hear the changes, that what's going on, but obviously this is something that is that's fluid, that needs to be able to change, as, you know, as RIDE sees fit and as our administrators and our educators see fit. So at one point I thought it was broad. I don't want it to sound like I don't care about what you're telling us, that, because that's certainly not the case. But we certainly don't get a program of studies from any of our elementary schools. So is it,
I've always been confused. I mean, it's discussion, action, vote. I don't know if we have to vote on it. And I know in the past, we've always said, oh, what the heck, let's just do it just in case, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure if we have to.
and I don't want to, I don't know. Lori, help me on this. Or Mike, I just want honest feedback, please.
I have never been in a district where the program of studies comes to the school committee. It's happened every year since I've been here. For some reason, Scituate does do that, but there's no RIDE requirement that I am aware of that requires that the program of studies come. What we do need to have, and Mike and Ozzy and I have had this discussion, is we really need to have a conversation, not with school committee, about course approvals and course removals. What does that process look like?
So
Where does that all go?
that's-
That's different.
Yeah,
than
so
the
that, and I
program
will
of
tell you,
studies.
since I've been around, I've been doing this, not, maybe 10 years now. At one point, and I think it was more during budget time, one of our painful things of being a small districts are class sizes.
Yes.
And having enough students to run. Mr. Hassel, I don't know if you've ever had to do it, but I know principals before you have, like, they used to have to come to the school committee and kind of like plead their case, so to say. This is what do you really need it? Can we replace it with something else? I know there's a lot of, it's a word I'm thinking outside of the box that's done by, the administrators, so that we try and address everyone's need. So again, I don't want it to feel like, I think it's great. And actually I love hearing about the new,
We can always, and Mike, you can feel free to, chime in. We can always do a presentation to school committee around any changes that Mike is proposing to the program of studies. But you're under no obligation, based on everything that I know, to have to vote to approve that document.
Yet it is really great information. I think everyone here agrees, where if I'm out in the community, I can, talk and boast and sometimes rebuttal things that are out in the community, like, no, this is what's happening in the high school and this is how things are changing, and look at the new program that we have. And so it's nice to be informed.
And as we look at the process, we will work on a policy. We'll ask the policy subcommittee to develop a policy around course approvals and additions and deletions. Most districts have a policy around that. So we will do that work at the policy level, and Mike will be included in all those conversations, so that we can develop a system that works for Scituate, works for the high school, and keeps the school committee in the loop and part of that process.
Because
Because it does have budgetary impact.
it does, but RIDE certainly doesn't take us into consideration when they mandate what you do, and let's change this now. So,
Unfunded mandate.
right, yeah, but just, I just want to be able to provide the flexibility, and I love hearing the information.
Yep.
I bring it up every year, and
So moving forward, do we, is the direction that school committee is giving me that we don't have to bring it for approval, but that we will have Mr. Hassel come and make a presentation at some point in time in the school year around any changes in the program of studies?
I think that, to me,
I
that,
would like that.
to me, that sounds great.
You
And
good with that, Mike?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Ozzy, Lori, and I had conversations this year around really formalizing that process. So I love the idea of having a school committee policy around how courses are added within the district and specific to the high school. And I have to say kudos to our department chairs and teachers who they really do work hard at, like, you know, what can we offer? What do kids want? Surveying kids, listening to kids, making sure that it aligns with our mission and vision. But I think having a more formal process and then potentially taking that to our school improvement team is probably the right direction.
yeah, and again, we talk about the Principal Empowerment Act, like it
Right.
doesn't say you have to come back and approve every obvious, and on the flip side, just like Lori said, there's fiscal pieces to all of this. I think bringing us along for the ride, shall we say, like you've planted those seeds of a, you know, a potential pathway that's coming down the line. But
Right.
so we know that you're planting those seeds and what has to happen. But I just want to make it maybe a little bit more, my thought is that I want to just give the school principal and the superintendent and the director of curriculum the ability to change and shift things as they
Need to be.
absolutely,
Without our approval.
yeah.
But at the same time, we can't promote that which we don't understand, so it's great to have this presentation.
Perfect. We will proceed in that manner next year. Perfect.
Great.
Yes, thank you all.
Thanks, Mike.
So next on,
Oh, we did, oh, so we have to prove it. See?
Yeah.
Glad
We don't
I
have-
removed it. There we go.
So next on the agenda is discussion action vote for the Scituate coaching handbook.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Scituate Coach Handbook.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? So go ahead.
So again, I spoke with Mike today. If you recall, last time we went through this and the hitching point was the Booster Club. It was referenced, their fundraising policy was referenced in this handbook. And since then, the school committee has been approving the fundraising policy, of which we have a second reading tonight. And in that fundraising policy, we made it very clear that the PTO, PTA, and boosters and things of that nature are not underneath our umbrella. And therefore, language in here was changed to reflect that. In addition to a few other things, I spoke with Mike today, just in changing a few things in the handbook. So I just wanted to bring that highlight to people's attention.
So I guess I'm gonna kind of go on that same chord as the last one. I think it's great that we have this. I think it's great that the school committee is being shown this. Again, I'm not sure why it's here. And
I think it's
Oh,
considered a policy.
I think it is.
It's considered a policy. A
Oh.
handbook is considered a policy.
Mike, is there something out of the interscholastic league that speaks to the coach's handbook having to be school committee approved?
Not
Do
that
you
not that I'm aware of. Nothing from the Interscholastic League. I can certainly do some research.
No, I don't want to make more work for you. I'm trying to make less, honestly. Like, I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
well, this really
Yeah.
was. So
I
I
think
think
there's
we've asked
something, though.
Attorney Anderson in the past why we bring the student parent handbook to the school committee
Correct.
for approval. And I think this, in my humble 2 cents, I think that this aligns to the same thing as the student parent handbook, where
I
this
agree
is
with you.
specifically a guide for coaches. It's kind of what to do and what not to do. But this did not go before the policy committee. This was never written or intended to be a policy. It's a
Nor does the handbook go in front of the policy committee, but it is, in my understanding, which I could be wrong, is still considered a policy.
It's not technically a policy because we don't have a policy with a policy number,
Correct.
right? But the handbooks, because I wish John were still.
And I'm not trying to make this more difficult,
I
but
think the handbooks, because they provide direction to those coaches. And so if those handbooks aren't written, correctly and the coach follows it and something goes
Mhm.
awry, we are liable for that. So, so that to have it come here and have school committee say, yes, we know that the attorney's already looked at it. I think it's protection.
And
okay.
there's also other policies referenced in here.
So my other question then would be if there's ever a change to this. So is this something that's gonna have to come to us annually?
Only if there's changes.
Mike, do you anticipate, updating this annually?
I don't think that this is something that would be updated annually, no.
Okay. Yeah.
But with any type of handbook or policy, you don't know how it's going to work until you use it. And then once you use it, you may find things that need to be tweaked or changed, omitted or added. In that sense, that, it would come back to us with those small changes, as in any policy. It's a big one.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I wanna move it along. I know we've already got 4, so I just didn't really kind of know the reasoning
No,
behind.
it's a good question.
Yeah. Anything you want to tell us about it, Mr. Hassel?
No, kudos to Sal. I know we really took a lot of language from the Charahoe book. It's been vetted by John Anderson, both from Charahoe and here in Scituate. I think it's a much needed guideline for our coaches. It really, Sal did a great job making sure that the communication is right there and everything's laid out of, how can we support coaches and then what should coaches do and not do here at Scituate.
I will say that I know Jean Angel looked at it and she was extremely impressed. Just so you know, Mike.
Ray, did you have a comment specifically?
Yeah, just whether the policy, whether this handbook has to be presented, I would strongly urge that it continue. I mean, anyone that's been in this district and all of us have been, we've seen over the years where there's been some significant issues between coaches, players, parents. So the fact that you have a handbook that spells out the expectation levels, I think it's very important that you have that at least just for protection as a committee with regard to how
Yeah.
it plays out.
No, thanks, Ray. And yes, thank you, Mr. Hassel, and to our athletic director too, because again, I don't think we ever have this before. There's a lot of people, and I think a lot of coaches out there, whether you be on a high school team or those that have coached in to have a playbook, so to say, not necessarily about the game, but how to do it and what it is and acceptable. So
Mr. Hassel, in regards to the handbook, do the coaches sign off on it stating that they have received it on the date and time?
Yes.
'Cause
Once
honestly,
Yes, once it's approved, Sal and I were then planning to meet with the winter coaches and go over the handbook. And then starting last year, we implemented a procedure where Sal and I meet with every coach every season. And this will be the highlight of that. We'll roll out the life of an athlete policy and also this handbook with a signature.
thank you.
So we have, I think we had a second, right? Did we do a motion? We
We
did a
did.
motion, yeah, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Can I
passes.
do the next, want me to do the next one?
Sure.
Make a motion to, yeah, thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Hassel.
I
Thank
make a
you
motion
all.
to-
Appreciate it.
The second reading of policy 9065, anti-discrimination, anti-harassment and grievance procedure.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Motion to eliminate policy 9060, sexual harassment.
Do I have a second? And just for discussion, we talked about this last time. This has been replaced. It's not that sexual harassment isn't important, obviously it is, but it's been incorporated into other policies that we have. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Motion to eliminate policy 9070, discrimination based on sexual orientation.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? And again, same point. It's replaced by a new policy, a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Motion to approve the first reading of policy 3065, commercial activities.
So do I have a motion? Oh, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a motion, and a second? Any discussion? Ray, did you have a?
Yes.
Yep.
Just a couple of points as to how this is written and whether or not these are taken into account. We have vending machines with, I know certainly in the high school, there's vending machines that promote specific brands and the way that this is written, it's supposed to discourage brands. So I'm not sure if that is supposed to be addressed or exempted from this policy. Because I mean, you have a Coke machine, you have Dasani water, I mean, so
We can, oh, go ahead.
I believe the vending machines fall under the athletics.
but the way the policy is written, you're exposing students to commercial brands, and so I don't know if you want to exempt them. That's
Well,
the
take-
question,
because
right?
It's a first reading, so it's a good
Right.
point, right? Thank you for that.
Secondly, if we have commercial signs at Manning, we would have to address that and whether or not it's acceptable if leagues petition the school to allow the signs to advertise companies within school grounds. And that's been a bone of contention for a number of years back and forth
The banners that are on.
that are on the outfield fence.
So I think, according to the policy, the difference with that is those banners are not permanent.
But you're still exposing the kids. That's so
It's a fund, it is a fundraiser. I know we discussed it at length.
we
at the
did.
Policy committee. And, we'll discuss. it
yeah, I mean,
again.
it doesn't bother me one way or another, but I mean, I just want to make sure it's in alignment with,
Correct.
because
Well,
somebody may ask you about it.
We'll
it's-
look at that specifically, but we did, because I thought about that, Ray, and the conversation we had was around the fact that those banners, that's a booster activity, fundraising activity that puts those banners up.
And they're not
So
permanent.
Well, but again, but
if the
they are zip
exposed-
tied to the fence. I mean, they're semi-permanent. I
No,
mean, if,
Not really. It's not like a big, it's not like you have a big sign at Manning Field for the scoreboard. It says Coca-Cola underneath it. That's permanent. These come down
I-
every year. They come down every year.
Come down every year.
right, no, I get, I just, again,
But we'll address it again.
it doesn't bother me one way or another, but with regard to the mentioning of the boosters, the other question I was gonna have would be a reconciliation of this policy with the fundraising policy to make sure they're in alignment with
Got it.
regard to how you're promoting commercial activities here. And
It's actually all part of the same act. We just separated them, but this was part of our original fundraising policy, but it's all actually part of the same, Title 16, whatever the Title 16 thing is. It's all, we're actually just pretty much following the law.
So I
Yeah.
I think what you're, so.
Are you saying we should, when we're done with this, put it with the fundraising policy?
no, I just wanted them to be in alignment to
Oh,
make sure that the language
Yep.
reads
Yep.
like they're coordinated. That's all I'm saying is that I
definitely-
wasn't saying they
Okay,
should be
yeah.
incorporated or whatnot, just that the way that the language in the commercial policy interacts with the fundraising policy and that there's a bridge between the two so that,
Have you seen something that doesn't meld?
well, for instance, we've had in the past the mattress fundraiser. You're exposing students as a fundraising event, and I acknowledge that, to a specific brand. And here it talks about exposing the students to specific commercial products. So you might want to expand the language in here to provide the leeway a little bit more in the fundraising activities that the teams or the organizations carry on so that it's more in alignment. That's really what the point I'm trying to drive home is it seems like there's a little bit of a disconnect with what happens and the way that this short policy is written. So, and I want to I don't want anybody to turn around after the fact and say, well, their activity or the thing that they were selling was denied because of A, B, and C, but if it were in the fundraising, it would have been allowed. So I just want to make sure that it doesn't put back anybody into a corner or creates ill will later on down the road. That's all I was trying to drive at. And the last thing, again, it kind of looped into the fundraising thing, but our schools are obviously used for a lot of different leagues and sports and different activities happen in the schools, like the rec basketball and things like that. Who they also sell things. And I wanted to just make sure,
They're not covered under those policies. Either one, either the commercial activity or the fundraising policy. School committee policies only are,
but wouldn't it fall under the umbrella that things are happening in your building?
no, our policies can only, cover, schools and school personnel and like the boosters. That is exactly why when we talked about the banners, Ray, the legal counsel at the, policy subcommittee said, well, you really don't have a say in that because that's the boosters. So they're not covered under this policy.
I get that. I acknowledge it, but I would argue, or I would counter that the booster is doing something in support of an activity that is sponsored by the school, is the school. So it should, so if the boosters went out and did something that was found they were embezzling, it was going to reflect badly on the school, despite the fact that it was run by an organization that's independent of the school, but it was under the umbrella of an activity that in theory supported a school
It would
function.
certainly reflect badly. However, we wouldn't be held legally responsible for them.
I know, and I
You see
get
what I
that.
mean?
I get that. Maybe you want to give yourself some additional cover in these policies so that you draw the line more distinctly between morally indicted and actually indicted.
Thank you. So I have
Thank you, Ray.
a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
And to make a motion to approve the second reading of policy 7085 fundraising policy.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I have to does anyone have any announcements? Look, she's trying to get us out. Like, oh,
I am
baby.
freezing. It's very cold. in
That's one way to get things moving along. Any announcements? Everyone's good?
Did we want to tour the school?
So I think we could probably
Do a
for,
quick tour.
yeah, I think we can, bring the meeting to, yeah, and then we can just do a quick tour around the score. Yes, unfortunately.
You're in a meeting right now.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess, okay, before we adjourn, have there been any significant changes to Clayville? And that's not necessarily poor Sarah, I promise, you've just been here. Thank you for hosting us, by the way. You get to go to the trip to Washington, but then you get stuck with us a little bit later, so that's the payback. Anything major that you want to, just for sake of time, our chair wasn't feeling that well, she had to leave, so we kind of shifted things around, but thank you, Chris, for your tutelage. And is there anything big going on at Clayville from that changes?
At this point in time. At this point in time, to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
In the future, as we've talked about.
Yep.
We're gonna be looking at the preschool programs and the kindergarten, and should the building committee make some recommendations? to
Where
school
is the
committee to-
preschool, housed? What is it in?
Right now, it's next to kindergarten.
Okay, so for a bit of history, I have a son who is 20, I'm gonna make myself look old. Calm
Yes.
down, is he? Yeah. Who attended 20 years ago, attended the preschool program when it was here as a role model student. Terry Gallagher was
fabulous.
Harry Gallagher was the preschool teacher, and it was, believe it or not, it was housed in that little room right over there.
Oh, the conference room next door?
Yeah, so it's across from that used to be music. We've that's when we had two of every grades, two of everything. So they have the space that it's kind of, my head goes back to, so it's the classroom that's right near the kindergarten
Yes,
classroom.
it's right next to the kindergarten classroom.
Now, does that classroom have I know the kindergarten one does that one have a bathroom? No, I think I'm just, okay. Okay.
Yeah, kindergartners come out.
The kindergarten, oh, all right. So there was, I thought one of the classrooms had a bathroom in it.
The preschool room does.
Okay, that was, I think it was. I think, yeah.
Wow, you put that many kids?
We had two
None of us.
kindergartens at one time.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Yeah, okay, I don't want to go. But so thank you for bringing up those highlights again too, as things are ever changing and flowing and,
You know, early intervention in preschool and kindergarten is really critical.
Yeah.
It's really critical. And this is the only preschool program we have in the district.
how many
right?
students, so it's still an integrated program, correct?
Yes.
So how many students, do we have equal number of role model students and, students with, or is it kind of changed? Oh, I'm sorry. You thought you were getting out, sorry, I promise. This is nothing, just Karen.
It's not a one-to-one ratio in part because students become eligible for preschool as soon as they turn 3. And you might turn 3 in August, but you might turn 3 in December, January, March, and we need to have the spots open for any of the students. So there are currently slightly more peers than, there are more role models than students with IEPs.
Okay,
So we have 2 sessions. We have a morning session and an afternoon session, and the enrollment just changed last week, and it's changing again next week. So I think we have 13 students.
okay.
Really check that. It literally just changed.
No, but
Does
just to
that
kind of
answer
give
your
it a
question?
kind of.
I have a question. You may not know anything about this history because you're new, but is there outdoor classrooms
I know, just
ever
listen.
thought of being used again or what the status is?
I've been thinking a lot about it. So it has come up recently. So by the outdoor classroom, you mean the
There and
villages
the
on
section.
the 2 sides?
They're underneath in the front. Underneath the building.
No,
No,
outdoor.
The outdoor where they it used to be, the 4th and 5th grade classes, they would
Right.
have the pilgrim and the
Right.
No.
Thanksgiving, and they would have actually, they would have the town come in. They'd invite the community to come in for the presentations by the 2 classrooms.
Yep.
I don't know whether that is still occurring, and also the extended part where there is actually a trail in the back.
So I don't think we're currently using that space.
It was only
was
honestly
the-
during that time, it was only during Thanksgiving, so it was
Right.
only out there for a weekend. I
Right.
mean, honestly, if there's something that could be brought back. That was.
I'll disagree with you on that because I
No.
know a lot of the history of it. It was with Mrs. Angelotti, Betty Angelotti, who was a 4th grade teacher here. And she did a lot of these science programs. So within that trail that is back there, there are markers of all the very specific plants, trees,
Not know that.
and
That's
I
so
have
cool.
the whole map of that.
So so
That's
just
actually
to
really cool.
touch base, you're a little bit ahead of me. So when my kids came through here, they utilized the space for, look, we're just giving you a little history lesson
I'm
too while
pointing,
you're
but I
here.
don't know if I'm
Yeah.
pointing in the
No.
right direction is my
So
problem.
yeah, so we've done they did the Native American and but I don't know, and I knew of Mrs. Angelotti's outdoor classroom. I don't think they utilized the classroom when my kids came through. My youngest being a senior now, so it's been like what, 6 years since she was here. But they did do the units on, I think what happened, and this may have actually happened before COVID even, is we used to have 2 of every class here. So it's a big community effort of
Yeah.
everything up. And I think one of the struggles, so you have half the helpers, half the this, half the everything, because it's really parents and everybody helping as long. And then I think, and you can talk to your staff about it, I think some of our curriculum demands became so
I know.
difficult. They tied everything in beautifully. We used to go,
Mhm.
like, we'd go to the Pequot Museum, we'd go to Plymouth, we'd
Yeah.
do,
Right.
it was, so I get it. I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. if
It's
the-
just there's so much history
Yeah,
back there.
yeah.
That is lost.
And it was the
It's
cool
been-
thing, if you had a brother or sister that was at the high school or middle school, they used to get out of
Come down.
school. And
Yeah.
have you been here for it, Lori?
The first year I was here.
Okay, it's
It
amazing.
was, it
I mean, the
was-
kids spent studying so much
Yeah.
And then Courtney
building everything
started
out
the
there.
next year.
I'm sorry?
That first year I was here,
Yeah.
it was up and running. And then my second year, Courtney.
Oh, COVID, yeah.
Well,
See,
no,
which it would have been perfect because they.
No, I
yeah,
think
they
it,
were-
I think it
Right,
stopped.
right.
It was
It-
just before,
yeah.
yeah, but so there's a lot of pieces to it, but it was amazing. Kids, you'll hear kids in their graduation speeches still talk about doing those days. The Alpha used to always dress as a Native American and the principal used to.
Well,
they'd
and the
swap-
students knew what
But anyway.
character, they studied it, they spoke like that. I mean, it was just amazing what these kids learned in their projects.
So I do think there have been some pretty significant changes in curriculum, that would make it really hard to take on a project like that. But the science, the placards of the native species, I did not know that
Yeah,
existed.
Then
and
you had
that
Turkey dinner.
Wouldn't be
Yep.
impossible to incorporate.
And I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it's-
That's
yeah.
good history.
I would love
Yeah,
that. if you could
I
do
have
that.
the markers of all the trail and the maps of it.
Okay.
Sounds amazing. I would love
Yeah.
to see that.
My question, Lori, was not in regards to those classroom. I was talking about the classrooms that are underneath.
Oh,
the
that are
school,
closed?
That are closed. I know Jay was talking about.
Yeah, he was talking about.
Everyone
I
heard
didn't
down there.
realize you
Going
could go
down the
downstairs
stairwell.
to the old
that's where you were
cafeteria.
talking about the basement?
Yeah.
Basement.
Okay.
It used to
So
be
it's the
sealed.
basement. So, that last big rainstorm we had, they pumped water out of that basement for 4 hours straight. But the plan might be for the administrative offices to get out of those classrooms we've commandeered and go into the basement. Yeah, so that
Isn't there
we
only
could
one
look
exit?
at an early childhood sort of cluster preschool, if we needed to add a second preschool room, if if the demand were there, have kindergarten there and really focus on the early childhood kids as a group.
So we'll maybe
So-
get you some galoshes.
They-
Staff, what do you got for shoes tonight?
They swear that, all those issues will be taken care of, but there was 6 clean care trucks here
down
today,
there.
so
What's interesting, and mine didn't come that far after, but that was like the taboo place. Don't
Yeah.
even go look.
They closed it down.
It was like the jail or something,
my
like,
son was
anyhow.
here.
It used to be the cafeteria, they tell me.
Yeah, that's what you said, your kids ate
Yeah.
lunches there, right?
Down there.
Yeah, well, they'll have me cooking.
All right, so do we have all of our, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Already did.
Do you have a second?
Second.